Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. This is Outsized Returns. I'm your host, Sam Taylor, Samuel Austin Taylor, Sir Sam T on all the social media channels. So today I am thrilled because not only do we have an exciting founder really explaining her journey from her startup to where we are today, pivoting through COVID-19, but more importantly, I wanted to bring awareness to her business because I think it's going to be a fantastic company for years to come. So imagine going into a store to buy goods for your home, knowing that your significant other needs this certain color in these curtains or this couch. Wouldn't you like to have one app that you can either take a picture of or kind of scroll through to find that exact color so you don't mess things up? That's what the Vishion app does for you. Vishion. My
Yes.
guest today is Samantha Smith, CEO of Vishion, here to explain her journey from, the beginning to now and everything in between. So, Samantha, welcome to Outsized Returns.
I loved that. That was,
Yeah.
first of all, you included the spelling. That's like,
Yeah.
that's key. You always wait till the end to drop that H. And
Yeah.
hitting it at the beginning is a wonderful decision. So thank you for
Yeah.
having me, Sam.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, in full disclosure, I am an angel investor, an early stage investor in technology startups. And Samantha and I connected via LinkedIn
Mhm.
and just got to know each other. She has a great personality, but more importantly, not only does she seem to be a fantastic leader, but also has a great business behind her. So, Sam, tell everybody about Vishion, how it came about, and kind of where we are today.
Yeah, I appreciate it. And, I'm hanging on my personality. Like, that's the
Yeah.
only thing I've got going for me. So, like, I try to bring that bad boy out whenever I can. So Vishion, I'm excited to tell you about it. What's awesome is as of today, you can go to vishion.co and you can search by color there. So we're not only mobile app dependent. Now you can take any color, search for any decor, as well as plan out your home palette and different home projects through Vishion. I mean, we could go in 1,000 different directions of how I can tell you about Vishion.
Yeah, well, take us from the genesis. Like, how did
That's
Vishion
what I was
start?
thinking.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and bring us all the way to present day.
Yeah,
Yeah.
luckily my husband's involved in this story because his favorite part
Okay.
about hearing like different podcasts I'm on is that he gets mentioned.
Yeah.
And so my husband and I purchased a very expensive bed, and to
Okay.
celebrate, like typical millennials, we went to a very expensive restaurant.
Okay.
And the restaurant we went to is called Kindred in Davidson, and the bar has this beautiful green cabinetry. And my husband said, wouldn't it be great if we could get nightstands in that shade of green to match the bed that we just bought? And I was like, oh my gosh, we're on a roll. Yes, like totally
Yeah.
vibing. You know, when you feel like you're vibing with your
Yeah.
partner and you're like,
Yeah.
I will do
Absolutely.
anything to make this happen. So I was on Pinterest. I went on Google. Quickly realized that I couldn't articulate what that shade of green was. And
Right.
so it's really impossible to even be able to type it in or search for it, which I thought was ridiculous with technology as we are.
Yeah.
I have a background in startups, so instantly I was like, oh, this is solvable. I can do it. And I'm sure
Now,
you
what year
felt
was this?
this was 2017,
Okay.
summer of 2017. And I'm
Okay.
sure you felt this way too, but do you ever just experience like just any type of experience and go, here are the ways that I would have changed this to
Oh,
make it more
absolutely.
efficient?
Yeah.
Top golf being one of those like clear like things that you step into a Top golf and they just did so much wrong. Like
Yeah.
so that's an example. If you've ever been frustrated by Top golf, then you're
Yeah.
on the same vibe
Yeah.
as me.
Absolutely.
Like there are lots of things, but yeah. So I was halfway through my MBA at UNC Charlotte. I had 4 weeks until we had to pay the check, and so I spent 4 weeks pitching Vishion in the Charlotte ecosystem, just researching, seeing where the competition was, what we could possibly do. And within those 4 weeks, made the decision that it was the path that I wanted to go on. So did the side hustle thing for, a while. Don't you
Yep.
hate the side hustle just because you're like, oh, it's so nice to have something that you're passionate about that you want to wake up and really just dedicate everything.
Mm-hmm.
And luckily that's what I got with Vishion. So now we're 2020, which is
Yeah.
crazy that we've been working on Vishion. We launched Vishion, just the color search last fall, and then the social component actually like right at the precipice or the beginning of COVID. So we were covered by Arc Digest. about the last week of February. And we won the SoGal pitch competition then as well.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thanks. I always like to
Mhm.
drop that because I'm like, that was a pretty good week. The
Yeah,
Art
yeah.
Digest and the win. You're like, let's just replay that.
Yeah.
And that was when we launched our social functionality. So you actually have the ability, if you're an interior designer or someone planning your space, to showcase your portfolio, save your different design ideas, but also search these different boards by color. So if you wanted to see how other folks have leveraged a certain color in their space to help you with comfortability, or what I like to call color confidence, you have the ability to do so. So that's what's live right now. You can go to vishion.co. We actually launched a fun thing today where you can actually type in your birthday and see what your color is. So I'm entrepreneurial green.
Okay. When's your birthday?
Yeah, March 21st. So
Okay.
if you're not March
No,
21st,
we're not that good. So
yeah.
to everyone listening, Sam and I like golf. We lunge for cardio. We're a lot alike.
Yeah, we do. We like football. Yeah. And that's why I was like, oh my gosh, are we twins?
Yeah. But no,
It's getting to that level.
what was my color? It was coral. I looked this morning. Yeah, coral.
Thank you for looking.
Yeah,
I love it.
of course I
Yes.
would. Yeah.
I love it. Yeah, I definitely chose entrepreneurial green. If you didn't know, like, yeah, that wasn't by chance. And if people think it is, then that's even cooler.
Yeah.
So that was launched. That was launched today, and then we're gearing up for Vishion Pro for launching in July. I was just talking to a pro right before this call, which is the ability for any of these home specialists who are offering virtual services. They have the ability to post their virtual services on their Vishion portfolio. So if I'm working, and the pro I was speaking to before, this is actually a landscape architect.
Okay.
And I was speaking to her about how we are struggling with one part of my yard that gets too much sun and everything dies. And so she was like, oh yeah, I could totally plan out what you should do there. And that's exactly what Vishion Pro would do. You basically go from doing it yourself to doing it with an expert. So we already have and have been focusing on these home specialists. So it's exciting to give them a platform to be able to showcase their little pivots with our pivot.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Now, so I know that you're in a raise, like there's the seed round end in June.
That's the goal, is the
That's
end
the goal?
of June.
Okay. End of June. Okay. What's the most difficult thing about fundraising? I know it seems that a lot of people like to glorify fundraising.
Yeah, it's the worst.
And I was just about to say, from the amount of founders that I've talked to, friends that have started businesses that are venture scale, it doesn't seem like to be a fun process. So.
No, and what's funny is you'd assume, because I was in sales, I was like, oh, it's basically sales. Like, at least that's how I mentally thought about it. There's so many components that I've learned through this that definitely, hindsight's 2020, but a book couldn't prepare you for. I would say that I was the master of reading all the books about fundraising. And one thing too is we're based in Charlotte. It's a different landscape. I think it's so interesting pitching, and I mean, you can speak to this from your experience too, but pitching people from different areas even varies how the conversation's going to go. There's so many just little nuances about I have some folks who I'm pitching in the Midwest who, we never do evaluation for a pre-seed seed company over 1.75. We're in San Francisco, same pitch. They're like, and we have a 3 million cap, same pitch. They're like, well, you're not even, and I quote, this is what an investor said, are you valuing yourself because you're not putting your best foot forward with your valuation cap? And I'm like, it's like both ways. And then another one was like, why aren't you offering a safe? And in Charlotte or in our area, they do not even touch safes. They don't like them. It's not, and most of my investors are from the South and Midwest so far. So it's just a lot of conflicting, and everyone has advice, which is nice. And I think you should take it and, digest it. If you start seeing a trend, maybe listen to it. But it's very, very much more challenging, I think, than people give credit for, mostly because unless you're in San Francisco, and I have not met someone who may have moved to San Francisco and didn't have an existing network, so I can't speak for everyone, but definitely the one thing that I got wrong was not having that existing network of investors off the bat. That idea that you have to have a soft intro is very prevalent. And it's almost annoying to be honest, because you're like, I have like the 3 connections who might be, or 5 connections who might be like connected to everyone else. And you're like, how much of that relationship do I want to be like, can you do all of this work for me and introduce me? It doesn't feel like a card you want to play all the time. So you kind of play it close to your chest. So I very much, and that's how I met you too. I just, I go for it. I'm like, here's me. If you wanted a warm intro, I apologize. But the level of a commitment or outreach that I have to do compared to the level of number of people who can actually introduce me is vastly different than I think most people. I don't know.
I could definitely understand that.
Yeah.
It sounds like the big disconnect, if you're not in Silicon Valley, so to take a step back, most of the largest companies in the world outside of Amazon are in Silicon Valley for a reason, and were started in this area. So that's why most of the entrepreneurs come from other walks of life and move here to start their companies. So to the venture community, being outside of Silicon Valley, you're already at a disadvantage. Because they're like, why don't you just move to Silicon Valley, right?
I've gotten that comment even during COVID. And I was like, really? I cannot believe we're still singing that song. Because it doesn't seem like the network effect doesn't apply anymore. At least
you could just
now.
wire money, get on the Zoom call. It's pretty easy these days.
I'm pretty much the same both ways. I'm a little bit taller in person. I think that might be that might be the thing that people are missing. I'm like 6 foot. So like,
oh wow.
That's why I'm good at sports. It's like I'm a natural athlete and I'm tall.
That makes sense. That makes a lot more sense now.
Do you see? That's why they like me on flag football, is I just stand in the corner and lift an arm. It's great.
Do you think that, like, what would you recommend for an early age startup company that's outside of Silicon Valley? And then we can kind of get back to your story. But since we're here now, what would you recommend them kind of do if they're looking to raise money and having trouble contacting the venture community? Is it just send out 100 cold emails, or reach out to other early stage startup founders? Like, what would you think is kind of the best? Like, what would you think is the best method of success from your experience? Because that's kind of what I want to kind of bring to the audience, like what we should be doing now and what we can kind of start to move towards. And
I know with COVID, it's like the Wild West, like some of the rules don't apply. And that's frustrating, because it does feel like you're new terrain figuring it out for everyone else almost. My thought process is, and I don't know if you feel the same, I think that this is going to last for a while. So whatever the advice that I should pass down should be lasting advice, at least for a year. But I know for me, I was willing to do literally anything. I had no connections. Even though I was in a startup before my startup, I wasn't active in the startup community. That startup did not raise. And I was at the startup before that, and I hope like I didn't just jumble and or make that more confusing. But I was at a startup as a sales manager. That company got acquired. And was brought onto the next startup, and the money that we got from that first one is what funded the second one. So there was never a fundraising moment that I really learned from, and there was never that need for the connectivity. So the first thing that I did, and I mentioned this earlier, was go into the community and start pitching. And I would do that all over again. I actually took it a step further, and I created a diversity group where it's called Collective Hustle, and it's about elevating underrepresented founders, which definitely was a lot of work. And I wouldn't recommend it to everyone, but I don't think you could meet a single person in Charlotte who doesn't know who I am. And that's one of, I think, my skills as far as networking locally. Now, networking in Charlotte, or the Charlotte ecosystem, compared, the risk-averse vibe here is strong. We have a very big fintech type culture. It's definitely one of we have like 2 angel groups in our area. Like, at least within like Atlanta, you have like a Paul Judge or a Super Angel or someone who can lead the way and showcase like what people can do on their own. It's a very much follow the leader mentality in Charlotte. So, I mean, building a network of founders was probably one of the best things that I did. I can name like all these founders who I know personally, reached out to different folks who've invested in them, and have really gone to bat for me as far as introductions and everything. And I think you learn the most from other founders. So I think maybe not. I think fundraising, definitely they'll have a helping hand if they are founders who have raised and have that network. But I think more than anything, those founders probably are best for just those moments where you feel like, and you will feel this way, that you're failing. And that you're not keeping up with everyone else. And you're like, am I doing everything correctly? Do you feel an immense amount of pressure to be perfect? Because there's so many hours in a day, and every second that you don't work, you start feeling guilty. Like it's a very weird realm, and seeing other people function and they're like, oh, they spend time with their family. Okay, I can take
you got 8 hours of sleep. How? You don't want this back.
I'm like, maybe I can take it easy on myself. Like, you know, maybe I am like, my expectations are so high for what's reasonable. Because when you read these stories and you skip the montage of like I mentioned, in 2017, that's 2 years of testing. We went out, we stood in malls and asked people questions about color and validated the thesis. When we created the name Vision, it's fashion and vision pushed together because the idea was so broad. We were thinking apparel and home. And,
I would have never gotten that had you not said that.
That's because people ask. I had an investor ask me today, like, what is that? And I was like, it's fashion and vision pushed together. Like, because and we tested it, and in the mall we had 55% of shoppers had an experience with home where they struggled to search by color, and it was only 33% when it came to apparel. And primarily, oddly enough, again, things I wouldn't know just by guessing, jeans were the number one like color annoyance. People were like, just wanted to find, they wanted to find jeans in a specific shade. And they're like, and I don't know why, don't ask me. I mean, you would think for me, it'd be like shoes matching, purse matching, dress. No, they're like, God, I hate jeans that are dark, or I love jeans that are dark. I don't, but that example came up over and over again. So anyways, but that's when we decided, and we just fine-tuned. And I mean, hindsight's 2022. And I know we're kind of off of the tangent.
No. This is more important.
Yeah, but you're like, especially with now, the number one thing, and I told you this, I think when we met, for us was, oh man, people are stuck at home. The whole point of the app was you're out, you can't remember what color you need, or you're thinking, oh, I love that, but I wish it was in a different shade. Let me see if there's somewhere nearby that has something like that I might be able to check out. Now you're at home, and you're like, I have my computer in front of me. I like the landscape of a larger screen. It's easier to use typically. And that we're like right away went, oh God, people are gonna be stuck at home. We need to put
for a year probably.
Yes, we need to pull all of this as quickly as possible and put it on the web. And it's just a mindset shift. But we spent so much time, and it was so funny is I've had investors who even asked, what took you so long as far as like putting everything together? And I said, well, personally, I'm not wealthy. I've never been, by myself. Well, otherwise I wouldn't be fundraising. Let's be clear. That took time. I had things that I wanted to do. I wanted to do everything a certain way. I came from a startup that had the belief of you don't want to do throwaway code. You don't want to outsource because most likely that's just going to end up being thrown away, and you're just going to have to start from fresh. Like you have that MVP idea, and then you go from there. And I'm not saying that we won't evolve, but every line of code is written by us. We know exactly what everything is. And finding the people, because I'm not a dev or a technology founder. I'm not the CTO. My co-founder is. Finding him and then finding the team to support him takes so much time. Just try convincing people who typically make like $250,000. You're like, come on this dream with me. In Charlotte, people who aren't conditioned to know, because I wanted all of our team to be together, which now again, not as necessary. You're like, now that you're more comfortable with remote, but I thought it was very important that we got to know each other and that we got to see each other every week. I do think there's a lot of validity to being in person. And yeah, all of that's kind of on its head now.
Yeah. So Vision is essentially the Google of color search.
Yeah.
And if somebody would have approached me, this is why I'm an angel investor, but
Yeah.
if somebody would have approached me and I have the skills that Samantha needs with an idea to have one company with the same amount of daily active users that Google has, or let's say half of that, or half of that.
Yeah.
That's a mighty large organization.
Yes.
And so if we can build that type of business, it's a no-brainer to me. That's how you convince somebody to leave their $250,000 job to come over and take a year, maybe 2 years to see if this can work.
Yep.
Now,
and that's been my team.
Yeah.
Just let you guys know, we're all in this. We're workhorses.
Yeah. Talk about your partnership with Sherwin Williams. You don't have to elaborate on the trade secrets that you guys have, or if you want, but talk about the negotiating and how you got those guys on board and what they saw to kind of join the Vision team.
Yeah, it goes so great as I actually spoke with them this morning. So
Awesome.
we're off on a good day as far as because they now are historically a very not high tech company.
Yeah,
like you can't with them you can't buy paint online or order chips online until
at all.
No. Yeah.
Wow.
They just started a program, which is what we're that's what we were working on this morning. Because we're doing a virtual market for our Vishion Pros. So like, how do you work virtually? And we're trying to include their pros, which are the virtual consultations for color.
Yeah.
And you didn't even have a way to even get paint chips or anything in the mail. You always had to go to like a Lowe's, who's also a partner of ours, and physically get them. Obviously, you could see how that didn't weather well with all of this.
Right.
But Sherwin Williams, that was pure hustle as far as getting the connection to them. I went through, found the person who I thought was the most important individual to speak with, and I tried every single email type, which they have middle initials in their emails. I know how many organizations do that.
Yeah.
And so this, and I still remember exactly, her middle initial was M. So I went through all of to get to M's. And she responded. I pitched her. This was nothing built. I was like, this is the idea I have. You are the partner that I want. For me, I know all of the colors of my Sherwin Williams paints in my house. Sea salt is in my living room, and I'm like, my jumping off point, or that thing that I have in my room that I base everything else around, is that color. And so I thought it was very important that we had a large paint company who we could take the paint color and be able to explore that. So for Sherwin Williams, they betaed with us, then they just re-signed, and we have an exclusive deal with them. And what's nice is they're going to be promoting this whole pro thing. That's what we're working on right now. It is hard. Like as a startup founder, working with large organizations is challenging. Like, it's weird how fast you can move, and
you're in a sailboat and they're in a battleship.
It's crazy. And she was saying today, she was apologizing for it, but because of just like timing. She's like, oh, this is going to take me like just to get a response. And I'm like, I've learned that over the past 2 years. Like, I know the ins and outs, but having a name like Sherwin Williams, but also being able to use the colors, they're just a definition of color. When people think color search engine, they typically only think of finding paint, which is very interesting. But I think that's because it's historically what they've done. So when Home Depot came out with their paint matching app, I got a flood of emails going, oh no, Home Depot's in the game. And I was like, they are doing exactly what Sherwin Williams app does. Like any paint company.
Any paint company.
So I'm like, man, you don't know what we do you?
Right.
It's very limited. But I mean, that makes sense. You're showing people like a new way of thinking. So it's been great being able to have them as a partner. And you still have to work through it. Luckily, I worked for Dell, which is a larger company, and you recognize like just the bureaucracy that you have to go through, and there's a different way of communicating, there's different expectations, and definitely I think COVID for them has really pushed them into a more lean or quick moving, I guess, organization, which is good. I think they needed it.
I think one thing COVID has done has made a lot of fat organizations get off of their seat and kind of get more nimble, or get on the internet, get on the web, get on mobile when they were putting it off. Like, I come from the financial services community, trying to convince a 65-year-old financial advisor that manages $100 million to talk to his client on Zoom.
Yeah.
I can't imagine how challenging that is. You know, he's been his client for 30 years. I mean, he doesn't want to do that.
It's crazy. And you know what? Back to your fundraising point, people were like, Sherwin Williams pays you what per click, and why would they do that? Like, they really were very, very confused about like, you can really tell the people who get the company by like the questions they ask. Yeah. And I think that's the number one thing as a startup founder. As soon as you start hearing good questions, you're like, yes, we got one. We have someone who gets it. Yeah. And yes, because Sherwin Williams doesn't sell paint on their website. So the investors were like, they're just paying you to see their website. Yeah. And I was like, it's ad tech. Like, that's kind of what they do. They want you to explore color, and this is how you can do it. And that line, or that cognitive dissonance, that ability to be able to stretch to that like that realm, is challenging for a lot of investors.
So to that point, being a startup founder, I don't have a creative brain. Like, I'm not an A to B. I'm not an idea generator. I'm a C to Z kind of guy. I believe. I mean, we'll see over this next decade based on startups that I back and some of the business deals that I pursue. Yeah, I think I'm more of a C to Z kind of guy. I would have never come up. You just told me vision meets fashion, and I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense.
At least you pronounce vision right. There's a lot of guys. It's usually older white guys who are like, oh, vision. Like, where'd you get the French from? I just don't get it. Anyways, but
So to that point, it's hard. I think it's sometimes hard for investors to, I mean, you being a female founder.
I was wondering when you're going to say that. I was
if you came up with a let's call it a lady day app or something like that, guys would be like, oh yeah, like, let me go talk to my wife, and I understand that. Yeah. My perspective was, okay, this is something that I know this is definitely left field. I'm not on Pinterest. Yeah. But I know that this makes sense. Like, like search engine, I'm thinking wide, total addressable market is massive. There's a market for this. Like, I think this can work. And I don't know if you're in sales, so I don't think it's you, but I don't know if it's the sales communication of the founders or the people that are fundraising, or the disconnect from just venture or angels, or a little bit of both. But I hope that we can kind of close the gap a little bit, because then we'll be able to build and back bigger and better companies pursuing crazier ideas.
Yeah. And I get it. And I was wondering, I appreciate you tried to start that as not like leaning female, because it's really hard to avoid, the elephant in the room. Yeah. I'm not the Sam I said I was. That's why you go with Sam and not Samantha typically. Yeah. Yeah. There definitely is a disconnect that I experience a lot, especially when you're dealing with male investors, and there aren't as many female investors as you think, that just don't get it. They ask, I get so many conversations of like, I asked my wife her thoughts on this, which I totally appreciate. I love men who go to their wives and or their spouses and ask them their thoughts. I appreciate that, but I don't like the idea that your wife is the person who's the voice of all women. Right. Like that idea to me is a lot. And it's really challenging, because I have had, I have a lot of male founder friends who have asked me like, do you think it's more challenging because you're a woman? Like, there are steps that I have taken as a woman, and I'm not sure everyone's done this, but I only wear Vision t-shirts. Like, I don't wear anything. I don't do like a lot of makeup. Like, I purposefully showcase, like, I'm here for business. This is what I'm doing. This is all I'm about. And I put that at the forefront. I mean, I've had investors who have tried to Mike Pence me before, which you can instantly know, like, that's probably not a good fit
Yeah,
just
for sure.
in general, but they didn't want to meet, like, what would your husband think? And you're like, as soon as you ask that, then I'm like, well, yeah, I'm out.
Yeah.
I guess we probably don't need to meet at all. I think I've
Right.
gotten my answer.
Yeah.
It's challenging because you also know that there are certain things I can't relate to. And so you put yourself in the shoes of the investor, and you're like, if I can't relate to the problem, is it something that I would feel really, really comfortable in my soul investing in? So it's challenging because I definitely understand the grapple, the inability to say yes, because I've never experienced the pain. But at the same time, there are a number, it's not just female founders, there are a number of founders who have specific experiences within their communities that are just not relatable to the people who hold most of the power. And that's where you get that, like, that cyclical issue. And you do have a bunch of people who are trying to solve it, but Arlen Hamilton she can't be everyone. She can't be the answer. Paul Judge can't be the person who does it for everyone.
Right.
Or I'm trying to think of some female investors, and I'm terrible. Eileen Lee or Elizabeth at Hustle Fund. Like, there are plenty, and SoGal is an investor in us. So there are plenty of amazing women who are going out of their way, and they're trying, but you still see so many funds where it's just white guys. And you're like, you're not even trying. Like, you proudly put your pictures in a row. And that's it's just shocking to me that, like, how can you possibly feel like you can see all of the market opportunity when everyone is exactly the same? And then females are most of the purchasing power. Like, they drive it. And it does. It baffles me. And it's something that, I mean, I experience. You can tell instantly when someone doesn't connect. That being said, most of my investors are men. So, and they're all age ranges too. My very first investor is an older white gentleman. So I mock the whole Vishion thing, but, lightheartedly. He actually is, he's a president of a brick company. And he came to me for a question about spectrometers, which are color readers. And what I thought, he came to me at a conference and he said, what's the best spectrometer? And I was like, I have like 3 in my bag. So let me, I was like, I had just tested them all out, because we do have a relationship with one spectrometer. If we decided to instantly turn it on for the app that you wanted to do it, we could do that within a weekend, because we have it all. We don't feel like it's the most important thing right now, but if that was something that was a requirement, or to move forward with one of our major partners, we want to have that flexibility. And I was right. He went and he tested all the spectrometers, and he was like, yep, this is the best one. You've obviously done your homework, and that's enough for me. Like, color is important. I know how important it is. So obviously, I'm not saying not all men are characters.
Yes. We're not all bad.
They're not all bad. No. And no, I get it. And then another thing for us is, if you're wondering, like, really, like, what are the hardships? Like, what's when you're having the investment conversation, especially when you're pitching outside of Silicon Valley. And I think that's a very important thing that I never really considered, is Silicon Valley is very comfortable with pre-revenue. Like, they or more so. Let's just say more so. Not very, but more so. In the South, it's something that they're still getting adjusted.
It's a geographic mindset. Honestly, the risk takers are out west. The end.
And it's tough. And it is. It's just one of those things that there are days where I'm like, you wish you were further, or, you always, as a founder, you always think that nothing's perfect. You always launch it when it's imperfect, because you're like, break things, or whatever. Whoever said whatever book line that we read once. If you're not uncomfortable, then you're not doing it right.
Move fast and break things.
You're always uncomfortable. Everything's wrong.
How do you get over that uncomfortable feeling, that sunken place in your stomach where you're like, this is not ready, but I need to push forward. I need to move forward.
You know what's so funny is with the previous startup I was at, especially in a sales position, you have customers who are like, as soon as you get that feature, then I'm sold. And so the whole time you're like, come on, dev guys, like this is the most important thing you could possibly do in your whole life. Like, give me this feature. But you realize really quickly once you're in a startup, because everything because everything's lean, you really have to think about what is really the most important thing for your bottom line. It's going to push everyone forward. You become very comfortable with things that are missing. And it's your job as the founder to sell the vision, if you will, like be like, this is where we are, but is that
our first pun?
Oh man, I'm surprised I haven't laid it in. I can't believe I didn't lay it in sooner. That's the real fault of this. I should have like secretly said vision like every 10 minutes. But yeah, like it's one of those things, and it's funny because we do have someone who's relatively newer on our team. Like she came in January, and she's still like, oh, it's not perfect. There's like one little glitch on the personality thing. If you go right now, you'll see it because it's probably going to be fixed within the next 30 minutes. But the color of the description of vision is supposed to change pixelation. Like as soon as it hits a certain shade or hex value, it switches to white compared to black. And it wasn't working quite right. Like it just was always black. So I can't really read what vision is. And she's like, oh God, I'm not sure we want to promote this yet. And I said, firstly, like, it's just it's always going to be something. It's unfortunate. Like our search engine speed, we want to be quicker. Like that's our next like big thing. But you're like, that can't be before getting it on the web. And like, what do you prioritize? What's the most important? Because there's a lot of refactoring that has to go on and all these things behind the scenes that it seems like it would be so easy. And it's not. And it always pulls from something else. You want two things and you have to make a decision. And then you have to tell your team why that's the right one. And no one's ever happy. That's what you learn very quickly. You just really try your best within the confines of, your construct. Like it's just, it's constant. And then you become oddly comfortable with it. Like it's just like you start living in it and you're like, it sucks. Like one time I was showing the test version. So we didn't push to prod yet and to an investor and it didn't work. The color picker didn't work. Not the color was fine, but the image was so slow uploading because test environments are slow. Like this is not we're not putting a bunch of money in this environment. We're trying to save it. And so it just looked like garbage. And the investor was like, this is tech, man. That's what happens. And you're like, yes. And you start to realize very quickly, people are on your side. Like, it's just, if they love the idea, they're with you. If they don't, they'll find any reason to leave. It's not the one mistake. It's not the X. Like those things, anyone who's smart enough and has been in tech, which is who you want as investors, know that it's relatively like if it's a little thing, it can be fixed. Stuff goes down, especially with this pandemic. It feels like there's been so many outages of like so many services. If Google goes down and Twitter goes down still, I think your little startup, I think it's fair to say it's going to happen. It's more like, how do you react to it? Do you have a disaster recovery plan in place? Have you talked about it as a team when someone recognizes it, what you have to do? And really have to start being comfortable with the plan that you make. Like, it's just.
So now that we're on puns, talk to us about your vision for the next 5 years.
Okay.
And then how does Vision make money present day? And then talk about some of the ideas that you see, hopefully, before, like right before IPO or maybe your series C or D or something like that.
Yeah, or acquisition. Yeah, because I'm wondering, IPO is not as sexy anymore. Have you noticed that?
I have.
I know. So I'm like, the acquisition, which is like what all investors love to talk about right at the beginning. For us, it could go so many ways. And I love, one thing I love about this company is that we're going to have to always listen to the way that our audience wants to best use this. Because you could go down the route of we have Vishion Pro coming up. Do we want to lean really heavily on the idea of making small jobs work and then building it into larger projects and then embedding AR and being able to pull the color if we're validating color with the R&D that we're putting in. No one has been doing AR correctly with color because it's technically just not possible. So
Yeah.
like, you're like, should that be the route that we go? Do people like 3D modeling? Should we have like almost like a version of The Sims? Because we were all addicted to that game.
Yeah.
At least I was. I only built the houses, then I usually let them die and then started a new house. Control Rosebud was my thing. I was meant to be rich. And yeah, so like, do you want to go that route? Or like one of the, or you could go all routes. Like, let's not say that anything's limited. The few things, the real thing that we've always wanted to do is complete the look. So really lean into machine learning instead of the Amazon model, which is well, people most looked at X with this. The ability to say, we know these colors work together. This is typically the items that you need within this outfit or this house or this room, and start pairing things and completing the look that way, and having some sort of proprietary technology that's specific to color, because color is the one element when you're considering how things piece together that people never really took into consideration. Either that, or they just the infrastructure of where retailers were to where they can be is just behind. Like the categorization of products is red. Yep. And you're like, and you funny is this is red, but it's also burnt orange. Like it's like there's so many layers.
How many colors does Sherwin Williams have? And
not as many as you think. They have 1,600.
Okay, I was gonna say it has to be over 2,000. Okay,
that's
yeah.
Yeah. So when you're looking at that wall, that's 1,600. We have 3,600 on the app. So, and the human eye, if you have a great eye, so it depends on your greatness level and the carrots you ate as a child, can see up to 10 million colors. Like the average person's like 7 million.
Wow.
Yes. Okay. So there's a lot of variance. And then my perception of what blue is could be different than your perception of blue. So the word blue is already like not technically correct. So being able to match or say, okay, let me throw together, even if you were like, let's throw together a navy polka dotted dress with a navy clutch. Or even, you probably wouldn't do that. You'd want beige. But that's where you're like, do you know what I mean? Like there's corresponding colors. And that's like my husband. Oh, it's a gray suit. Got to have a brown belt. And you're like, oh, like those two colors aren't necessarily like, you know, the things that you would think, but with machine learning and seeing how people pair colors together in their portfolio or the vision boards, pulling the way that people are using it, you'd be able to showcase, okay, what's trending now is not necessarily millennial purple anymore. Right. It's X. And that's what Sherwin Williams today was like, gray is out. And which everyone is looking at their walls going, oh crap. Like, how much? That was my safety net. Like the wall behind me is gray. And I'm gray, like, she said that while I was on the call with her, and I was like, should have been by this sea salt wall. I messed up. Like my bathroom's like this giant coral though, so trust me, it's happening. But
you have a lot of you have a lot of colors in your house.
You know, every room. So I'm just in one room right now. It's an open room, and it's 4 different colors that we have going on. Yeah, there's like little breaks in the room. I like color. I was just saying,
you must like color.
Yeah, I wish I was more bold, and that's really how the idea of the searching boards by color for color confidence. Like I'd love to see how, not only see how people pair things together, but show it to my husband so he gets on board. Like he's one of the reasons that a lot of the colors, like we have one really bright bathroom, and that was me really pushing it. Like I was like, please, like let this be like a Tuscan sunset. Yeah. And he's like, it's a small enough room that I think I'll give you that. But I wanted to paint our hallway like a really dark green. And he has given me zero leniency on that. And I want our office to be like a dark, like a teal, like a bluish green. And there's still splotches on the wall, and every time I point to the one I want, and he's like, no, it's still not happening.
Yeah.
And you know what they say, Sam? Happy husband, happy life. So, you know, you gotta.
I like that we got that recorded.
You got it. I always get it in, like just somehow, you know, because I'm all about equality.
Yes. What is there anything else that listeners should know about Vision?
Just find out your personality color, share it with everyone. It's Vision with an H. You hit it. That's literally whenever someone says, is there anything we should know? I always say Vision with an H.
Vision with an H.
Sam stealing my lines. Such a Sam thing to do. It is though, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah,
But yeah, this
absolutely.
was awesome. I enjoyed talking to you about vision. This is one of the more fun conversations I've had this week. So
Yeah,
thank you, Sam.
absolutely. Yeah, thank you, Sam, as well too.
Just
Well,
gotta hold it
guys,
up for the Sams.
absolutely. We have to help the world with their vision and our
Yes.
vision as well.
Yes. I'm with you 100%. I'm behind you.
Well, guys, thank you guys for tuning in today. We hope that you learned enough from Sam
Yeah,
to go download the Vishion app. But
definitely.
where can they find you? I almost forgot
Yeah,
that.
vision.co.
Okay.
And then even on social, we're Vision Co.
Okay.
So that's
Gotcha.
the place. And if anything, they can take away the whole 10 million colors, human eye trick. Yeah, or if they're in a Lowe's, I'm like, I bet you I can tell you how many swatches there are in the wall. 1,600. There you go.
There's 1,600.
Yeah, party tricks.
That's I don't know why is there not more than that? Like if the human eye can catch 10 million colors, there should be more.
It's the ugly colors that no one, like the personality colors, you'll notice those are all colors that you could put on your wall. Like you could find like a pastel pink or like a neon pink. Yeah, no one wants that.
These are the top half of 1%. Got it.
I made my husband collect every sample of Sherwin Williams paint swatches with me when we started. This was before we sold them. I don't even remember why. I was like, I need to have every color. I can't for the life of me remember why I made him do that.
Do you still have them?
Yeah, I do. They're in my office, like in a bag, because I'm like, we stood at Lowe's and picked every single swatch up, and I wondered if they'd stop us, and they didn't.
No.
So there you go.
Those are some things that startup founders typically do.
We find out. Yeah, I'm sure there was a really good reason behind it. I don't know exactly. Oh, I was confirming our color accuracy. That's what I was doing. Gotcha. Yeah, just to make sure we were everything was leveled correctly with the spectrometers. So yeah, super cool stuff.
Yeah. Well, guys, thank you guys for your time. Enjoy the rest of your day, morning and evening. And thank you for listening to Outsized Returns.
Cheers.